House Speaker Nancy Pelosi passed a $3 trillion relief package through the House of Representatives on May 15th. Like all legislation that passes the House, it was delivered to the United States Senate, where Mitch McConnell would not even look at it, wouldn't even discuss it. Speaker Pelosi then engaged in negotiations with Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, because Donald Trump is afraid of dealing directly with Nancy Pelosi, since this moment in the White House cabinet room humiliated Donald Trump. Donald Trump lives in fear of another moment like that, caught by a photographer. But past presidents have frequently left legislative negotiations to cabinet members, and so things were moving slowly, but at least they were moving when last week Donald Trump on Twitter declared an absolute end to any negotiations on providing any relief to any American suffering in this unprecedented crisis. Donald Trump shut it all down completely, and the stock market immediately crashed. And so Donald Trump, like the drunk driver of Washington negotiations, started swerving back into the traffic. And by Friday, Donald Trump told Rush Limbaugh, quote, "I would like to see a bigger stimulus package, frankly, than either the Democrats or the Republicans are offering." And that, of course, was a complete lie. And the White House immediately put out a statement correcting the president and saying, no, we want a much smaller package than Nancy Pelosi wants. The only person who has created any serious movement in these negotiations is Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who has moved down from her comprehensive package of $3 trillion of aid that she passed in May to a current proposal of $2.2 trillion of desperately needed aid. The Treasury Secretary has finally countered that with a proposal of $1.8 trillion, which uses the money very differently from the way Speaker Pelosi's proposal uses the money. And that might seem like a bridgeable gap, especially if you look at nothing but the numbers and completely ignore the underlying policy differences, as the Washington media always does. $2.2 trillion, $1.8 trillion. Maybe they could meet in the middle. That's the conventional wisdom, because that's what Washington usually does. But it is not up to Speaker Pelosi and the Treasury Secretary. In the end, it has to be a three-way negotiation that includes the United States Senate, and Mitch McConnell's offer began at nothing. Zero. That's what Mitch McConnell said he was willing to do while Nancy Pelosi was negotiating. And now Mitch McConnell has come all the way up to $500 billion. Mitch McConnell wants less than 1/3 what the White House wants. And in the face of that negotiating dynamic, there are members of the news media who have never, ever been in the room during legislative negotiations, who have never, ever worked on legislation involving hundreds of billions of dollars of tax provisions and spending provisions designed to help tens of millions of people. And they have negotiating advice for Nancy Pelosi. I've been in those rooms. I was in those rooms many times when I was the chief of staff of the Senate Finance Committee. But Washington is now filled with people who have no idea what it's like to work on even one provision of legislation like that, never mind the whole package. And suddenly they have negotiating advice for the Speaker of the House. And they don't have a word to say to Mitch McConnell, who is literally laughing off the whole idea of doing anything for anyone who is suffering in this pandemic. Here is Democratic Senate candidate Amy McGrath debating Mitch McConnell in Kentucky on Monday.
The House passed a bill in May, and the Senate went on vacation. I mean, you just don't do that. You negotiate. Senator, it is a national crisis. Yeah. You knew that the coronavirus wasn't going to end at the end of July. We knew this. I mean, I just think you've got to. And here's the thing: if you want to call yourself a leader,
Bill,
if you want to call yourself a leader, you got to get things done. And those of us that served in the Marines, we don't just point fingers at the other side. We get the job done.
Joining us now, the representative of California's 12th congressional district, who is the 52nd Speaker of the House of Representatives, and in that constitutionally established office, Nancy Pelosi is second in line of succession for the presidency. Speaker Pelosi, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I think you could just hear that as Amy McGrath was explaining to Kentucky that Mitch McConnell has done absolutely nothing, the only entry he made in the debate transcript there was his laughter. That's all he had to say about it, was to laugh about the situation.
It's remarkable. Hearing him laugh there, it was so heartbreaking, because it reminded me when we passed the bill, when he said, let's take a pause. Let's take a pause. Let the states go bankrupt. He's never taken this seriously. Probably the most honest thing he has done is laugh in public about it to show his true colors. It's really so tragic. And then that was echoed today in something that Secretary Mnuchin said, I'm not paying for pensions for the states. So this isn't about that. This is about a pandemic, in case you haven't noticed. This is about a pandemic where we are trying to compensate the states for the money that they spent on the pandemic and the revenue that they lost. That's one thing that the president, but they've all just ignored. The president said, I'm not paying blue states, all that stuff. They haven't taken this seriously. And what's sad about it is we could come to an agreement. We need to come to an agreement. But you know this because you've been there. They had in the CARES Act something they made everybody swallow, a big $150 billion tax giveaway to the wealthiest people in America. And yet when we want to make good on an expanded benefit for those who are unemployed, they say we can't afford that. So coming into this negotiation, from CARES to HEROES, we said, well, let's get rid of that net operating cost, that $150 billion, at least it's probably, it could be more, tax break for the rich, and let's put an earned income tax credit for the poorest families in America, for our poor children. They're losing their jobs for no fault of their own, their parents. And we had an earned income tax credit, which just until a few days ago, we thought that they would respect. But no, they insist on having their net operating loss tax break for the wealthiest, while they give zero to an earned income tax rate. It's very much different from President Bush, as a matter of fact, because when we were doing stimulus package with President Bush, he liked using the tax code to help people who needed help in our country. And we had one of the best, Barney Frank said, one of the most progressive tax bills ever, because it addressed the needs of working families, the earned income tax credit.